Now, you might have seen that we've been watching a few videos from Sasol bursars. We're going to continue to watch those to make sure that we're feeling inspired. Check this out.
I'm Nomtalitlo. I'm from a small town in the Eastern Cape called Ekomani. I'm an industrial engineer at Sasol, and currently I'm a business intelligence specialist within procurement at Sasol. I found out about the Sasol bursary in university. So we had a platform where they would email us a list of bursary opportunities, and that's where the Sasol email came through, and I applied. I actually didn't know before then that Sasol offered bursaries, but I applied through the university, and that's how I got the opportunity. All right, so initially, I actually studied civil engineering. Like I mentioned, I come from a very small town. So we didn't really have access to information in terms of what engineering branches are there. So I went to university, studied civil engineering, and I developed a keen interest for industrial engineering. So I did my research, engaged with a number of engineering students on campus to fully understand what this new stream that I was interested in entails. And so I made the difficult decision to pursue an industrial engineering career, and that's where my journey with Sasol started. Yes, I am. Once I completed my degree, I started off in Sasol mining as an industrial engineer, mainly focused on operations. And I think this speaks to the versatility of the degree in itself, because I started off in Sasol mining, as I said, and now I'm in business intelligence, and the work is very different. But all the skills and principles and expertise that I learned at school and that I applied throughout working with Sasol are still very relevant, and I'm still continuing this industrial engineering journey. All right, so the Sasol Techno X theme is to explore, create, and innovate. And I would advise learners to embed these three words in their daily choices they make towards their career. In terms of exploring, go out there with these career exhibitions, ask the necessary questions to understand what a particular career path entails. The more questions you ask, the more knowledge that you will have, and the better, or you'll have a more perspective on the career choice that you want and what opportunities there are out there. And in terms of creating, I would really like to advise them to create a roadmap for their career. If you know that it's 6 years from now you want to be a data scientist, you need to take a step back and decide that if that's where I want to go, what do I need to do today to get myself there? And lastly, it talks about innovation. I think a lot of us, when we think innovation, we think robotics, we think fourth industrial revolution, but it starts with something as simple as being a creative thinker. And to be a creative thinker, you need to ask questions. When you ask questions, you learn more. The more you learn, the more broad your perspective is. And that's how you start thinking creatively. And before you know it, what seems to be a daily thing where you just think something is simple is actually driving towards innovation. So that's the advice that I would give to them: to explore, to create, and to innovate.
She is goals. And I hope that you're taking down all of the advice that she gave, because it is extremely important to first think about where you want to go and then work back to create the steps that you will take. Next up, she's a geoscientist at Sasol. The scope of science just gets bigger and bigger. So here to tell us more about this vocation, please welcome Marieke Peche.
Hi, I'm exploitation geoscientist at Sasol. Working a bit more in the oil and gas area, not so much in the mining. But the big question, before I start to go into what's the life of the geoscientist, what exactly is a geoscientist? Now, everybody has a theory of it, everybody have heard of geology and geologists, but nobody really seems to know what it is. Not a lot of people actually know geologists, but it's one of those careers where you hear about it, but once, and everybody has a theory what it is, but nobody really knows what do we do. So first, a quick summary, what is geology? It's basically just the study of how the planet formed, what it's made of, and all the different materials, all the structures which it work on. So yes, your earthquakes and volcanoes are part of it as well. But there's so much more geology areas you can go into. There's environmental geologists, there's engineering geologists. Before you build a house, geologists have to come in and see, is the bedrock okay? If you build a highway, will this thing stay there, or will you have a pothole in the middle of it in 2 days? You also get your geomorphologists, paleontologists, geohydrologists, mining geology. It just goes on and on. This is not a very short, shallow area to go into. Now, geology itself, it consists of various types of work. It's not all just one area. The most fun of it is obviously the field work. If you are somebody who likes to go a bit more into nature, you don't like to sit in an office the whole day, this is the funnest part. This is where you go out, you look at the rocks. It's more fun than it sounds. But yes, you try to literally read the story of what happened there within the outcrops, within your cliffs. This is also where you do the geological mapping, so that you can say, okay, now here ends for one area, there goes for another one. And knowing that, you can go into mining geology, knowing where to find your mineral deposits. You can go into some of your more disaster geology. You can say, oh no, here was a tsunami, or here's a volcano area. You know this is a dangerous area. You know this is a safer area. This is all part of your field work. This is also where you start to get your samples, which go out for testing for your next part, which is more your laboratory work. So if you like, this is your more microscope work, some of your more bigger machinery you get here as well. So you can go into STEAMI work, you can go into infrared microscopes, and all of those different. And also some of your chemical analysis, if chemistry is more your thing, you can go into that as well. And all of this gets together for your computer work. This is where you're building 3D models, trying to see what it looks like underground from all of the work you got together from your field work. But I'll go a bit more into that later. Now, I'm within the petroleum geology. I'm a petroleum geologist, so I work more into the petroleum industry. One of the things which gets quite a big question is, geologists, geoscientists, what's the difference? Geoscientist is more like, this is all your different types of geology. So your geophysics and seismology and petrogeology also get into this as well. So geoscientists in the petroleum industry is almost just as wide. You get different types. You get your well site geologist. This is the people who work at the well itself. So while there's drilling, you go make sure everything is safe, make sure you know we're drilling in the right area, because these days drilling is not anymore just make a hole in the ground. You have to literally, some of the wells you have to sidetrack. So it has a curve. And for that, the geologist is important to make sure you get the right curve. You don't want to drill for oil and you miss it. You get your geophysicist. This is more your seismic, your petrophysicist. This looks at the information from the well and determine, okay, now you've drilled the well, exactly where's the different rock types, where's your reservoir. You get your geomodelers. These are the people who build the models and in computer do a lot of that work. Stratigraphy, sedimentologist, Bayesian analysis, that's your more scientific one, to put it bluntly. Way more the ones which look at the information put together, try to determine the story, how did this form, where to look for the oil and gas, where to look for further deposits. Now, one of the big things is if you go and talk about oil and gas, it's like, yeah, will this still be an industry in the next 10 years? Will this still be here? Because there's this very much push to decarbonization and environment and being a bit more carbon zero and more renewable energy. So is petroleum geology an area to go into? Once you're into petroleum geology, this is not the end. You can still go from there. The different areas you learn, the different skills you learn, they can be used in hydrogeology, carbon storage, your geothermal. Geothermal is literally going to areas which is more volcanic prone or where the crust of the earth is a bit hotter. You drill a hole for which you need the knowledge of your geology, of your petroleum geology and your drilling, and you use that to literally make electricity from volcanoes. So going a bit more, what do I mostly do in a day as a petroleum geologist? When it gets to field work, I'm more office-based, but I have gone out a few to see what the field geologists do as well. So this is where you get your seismic acquisition. This has been a bit in the news for Shell, which is now in South Africa not allowed to, but if you do your environmental beforehand, there's not a big problem with that. But this is where if it's offshore, it's with boats. I've been more on the onshore one, where you literally have vibrators, and this sends sound signals down. So these sound signals come back when it reflects off different rock layers, and from that you can get more of a picture. How does the Earth look below us? You get drilling geology, where you go to your well site. Here you go as they drill, make sure what is the different rocks they go through. Like I said, are you still in the right area? And then this is more which I specialize in, is more your computer work. This is where you get all the information from your drill site, from your seismic, from rock samples, geochemistry, all of that information are given to you. And you have to put that together, determine the story, and know how did it form, how much potential for oil and gas, how much hydrocarbons are down there. Is it worth drilling? Is it safe to drill? That's also a big thing we do, is look at the information, see is there any hazards. So the sport is the detective work. You put everything and you put everything together, and from there you tell the story of what happened. Now, this can be roughly subdivided into two groups. Your seismic interpretation. This is where you get all your seismic data together. I've got here on the side just some pictures to show you an idea how it looks once you get the information. And from this, you can literally get a picture of how it looks underground. The sound waves go down, some of them reflect from the different layers, and you can determine, is it a hard rock, is it a soft rock? And from there, you can see where's the hard rocks, where's the softer rocks, where's the areas which can be filled with gas or oil or water, which is just as important these days. And the other type of geology computer work, which we do quite a lot, is your geomodeling. So this is where you get all your information together, your seismic, after it's interpreted, you can determine what the different layers is. You put this together in a computer and you get a 3D model. It's not a lot, or it's not just input of computer. It's not you do the work, or it's not you put in information and the computer do all the work. You have to go in, make sure does this make sense from the work you know as a geologist, will it look like that if you compare it to modern areas? And this then you can also have to put almost like little cubes within the model. So it's a bit like a large Minecraft, but much more serious and much more important. So yes, if you like computer work, if you like graphics, more in area, your more IT work, this one, even though it's geology, even though it's rocks, this is a lot to work with that. So yeah, that's basically what I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marieke, for sharing all of your knowledge with us. What we have learned is that geology and the geosciences are answering all of our questions about how the Earth came to take its shape and its form, and it's also helpful for helping us understand how to find important materials like mineral resources, oil, and even water. So if you're thinking about going into geology and the geosciences, please do let us know on the chat. And if you have any questions as well, make sure you go in the questions tab to ask those. But before we continue, let's watch one more video from our Sasol bursar. Watch this.
Okay, so I'm Marieke Peche and I studied at the Northwest University Industrial Engineering. So at the moment I am an industrial EIT at Sasol, and yeah, I'm pursuing a data science role because I'm at the end of my GDP program. So I can't exactly recall when did I hear or how did I hear about the Sasol bursary, but what I do know is that I applied when I was in matric and I didn't get it the first time. So yeah, I want to encourage everyone to keep applying. So then in my first year, I was on the waiting list. And then I got a phone call and they were like, I should come in for an interview. So yeah, so I encourage everyone to continue applying for the bursary. Yeah, so as a bursar, you get to do vacation work, which is actually an amazing experience because you get to work on the plant, or you get to work with colleagues or people that at the end of the day becomes your colleagues. So your networking actually starts as a bursary holder, and it's so a nice experience now to, when I started at Sasol, to walk in, see familiar faces, and then your friends that you've met at back work actually becomes your colleagues as well in different business units. So yeah, I really appreciate that as a bursary holder, you actually get to start to network and get to know people within Sasol. So I'm a third year industrial engineering training, so I'm about to finish at the end of the year, and like I mentioned, I'm pursuing a data science role, and what I liked about the graduate program is that it gives you enough structure so that you can get exposure to a variety of different fields. Like every engineering discipline is actually very wide, and I think going out of varsity, you're not exactly sure in what direction you want to specialize in, or if you want to specialize. So the graduate program is so structured that it gives you exposure to a variety of different competencies, and what I appreciate about that is that's where I got exposure to data science, and where I realized I have this interest in data science. So so now I'm pursuing that. So from an industrial engineer to a data scientist, and it is the graduate program that gave me that opportunity. As part of the industrial engineering graduate program, there is a rotation that we do in data science. So as you rotate through the different businesses with the aim to gain different competencies, then there's maybe one that stands out for you, and then they allow you to pursue that. So yeah, I'm very grateful that they also get to know you and what your interests are and what you're good at, to ensure that there's like a career path that you can do. So just because you're an industrial engineer or chemical engineer doesn't always mean you're going to end up being an industrial engineer or chemical engineer. You have the freedom to also pursue your interests. So a piece of advice that I will give to students is to grab every opportunity that there is. So like the graduate program, they give you a lot of toolbox, and at the end of the day, you have a choice whether or not you're going to use the tools or not. And an interesting experience that I had was getting a mentor. So one of the tools is that they really encourage you to get a mentor with your graduate program. And I decided for my first month at Sasol, I'm going to challenge myself to do something that scares me every week. And one of the things was, and getting a mentor, is I decided to shoot high. So I managed to get an appointment with one of the VPs, which I really appreciated, her setting a time aside to have a coffee with me, and I asked her if she can be my mentor. She unfortunately didn't have the time to fully invest in being my mentor, but I really appreciated that she took the time to have a coffee with someone like me who's not even at Sasol for a month. So there's like that people caring factor as well. I mean, she could have just sent an email, so I really appreciated that. But I took the opportunity, and yeah, who knows, maybe one of you will be able to be mentored by a VP, but the opportunity is there, and yeah, you should grab every opportunity that comes your way.
When I grow up, I want to be a lawyer.
I want to do acting.
I want to be a musician.
I always wanted to be a plant operator.
I want to be a boiler maker.
I want to be a doctor.
I want to be a computer scientist.
One day, I want to be an engineer.
I want to be a medical doctor, but specialize in children.
I want to be a mechanical engineer.
I want to be an information technology.
I want to be electrical engineering.
I want to be a medical doctor and specialize in orthopedics.
I want to be a veterinarian.
I want to be a boiler maker.
I want to become a doctor.
I've always wanted to be a safety officer. Then my second career, it was being a psychology.
I want to be a voice to the voiceless people. I also believe in justice.
If I can become an engineer, I can take my skill and go back to my location where I came from and do something and change the lives of the youth.
I've always loved children from a very young age, but my inspiration is my brother. He was born 2018, but he had spinal bifida, so he didn't survive for very long. He died, passed away 2020. So for me, it is a very huge scar in my heart. So I'd really love to help other children, maybe that get to live longer than him.
I think that people need to know and need to hear the powerful voice that I have and the powerful spirit that I have.
The challenges that I face at home that might prevent me from becoming a doctor is the load shedding, first of all, because if there is load shedding, I cannot study. And if I cannot study, that means I cannot achieve my dreams.
I wasn't able to receive any sponsor whatsoever to pursue my dream of being a doctor.
That's why I couldn't proceed further in starting to be a plant operator.
Honestly speaking, like recently I'm having a problem to getting my ID. So I think it might influence badly to me writing my final examinations. And the issue of that electricity keeps, we having a power off, like it makes it difficult for me to study, especially at night because it's dark.
Right now, the funding is NSFAS. I applied for NSFAS so that they can fund my education. Yes, and then right now the results are out, but then I don't think I can get my results early because the funding is not approved yet. It's still pending.
Financially, yeah, financially wise, some of the things, actually it's a main fact, the finance. And again, where I'm coming from, it's a small place where, like I said before, we don't have a lot of information. We don't have people who are always telling us about how to become what you want to be. That's the things that are challenging me.
In the community, yes, there are kind of minor challenges like noise at night. People party, there are bars, as I live in a location. So there's noise at nights and I can't study. And then I postpone, I procrastinate, I study at 9, and at 9 there's still noise. So I end up not studying and I can come to school unprepared. And then also like the long distances, I can get to school really tired. Like as I said, I walk 45 minutes from where I stay to here. So when I get here, I'm tired. First period, first subject, I can't hear anything until I'm okay.
I get home, I'm always shouted, you know. Like every day, I was shouted. And this thing is making me to be, I'm always depressed about that. But I'm still studying. That's the only thing I do. So that one day I can be something else. Yeah. Like I used to sit at night thinking about how can I make it in life. Yeah.
My experience during COVID was that learning was very difficult for me because schools were closed, we go on days, and we didn't get a chance to read nicely. So the another thing that makes me so sad in COVID is that we experienced deaths, we lost our loved ones. That was my experience.
Many children didn't have access to internet and many classes were online classes. So many students didn't have access to like internet. So they couldn't reach the online classes.
At that time, our parents were not going to work, so we were struggling with data.
In South Africa, I feel like my future is working very slowly because we don't have much things like other countries whereby learners can study anytime, anywhere. In South Africa, we have to go to school and study very hard so that you can achieve your dreams.
The cool ideas that are in other countries, for example, China. In China, learners learn skills development from a very young age, so that when they grow up, you know that I did mechanical, so when I grow up, I have to do mechanical engineering maybe. And in our school, we only have to do careers after matric. So we have to deal with paperwork for 12 years. Then after 12 years, that's where real life starts. We have to choose whether we do medicine, engineering, or whatever.
I think I'll try to fix the thing of corruption, you know, like try to fight against this. Yes, because like for my future, I think there will be difficulties because people are employed with corruption involved.
Maybe when I go to university, then I don't like coding anymore because I didn't code at school. Maybe it's not my thing or something like that. So if I started coding here at school, fall in love with coding, then when I go to university, find a real love, you know?
I'd like to get help, like in order for me to get an ID. Then I think a laptop will be just fine to help me, you know, with all that what I need. And most important of all, electricity supply. I really need that one. Yes.
Like most of our parents can't afford, so it'd be a really good thing if they provided transport for us. And if, I don't know how they can stop the noise, but it'd be a really good thing if they help us there or provide places for us to study. For example, near libraries, library would be a good place to study.